Welcome to this episode of Mindful Medicine. I'm your host, Tracy Jones, and today we're with Dr. Jim Schrenker. How are you doing today?
Fabulous. Yourself?
Doing great.
What are we going to talk about today?
Well, there's some buzzwords going around that I would like to talk about, and I think people in our community are starting to hear more about it, but it's called blue zones.
So the blue zones, it's been out for probably 10, maybe 15 years. Dan Buettner has a book on it called The Blue Zones. It's the places in the world where people tend to live into their 90s, 100s, and still have a productive life. When they were doing some anthropological studies, they noticed that there was collections of humans that lived together that ended up living a longer than usual life without a lot of medical issues. And these places are in parts of the world that don't have a whole lot of first world amenities. An interesting side note is the reason they're called blue zones is because that's the color they used to circle the areas that they found. They had yellow and they had orange, but blue zones lived longer, so they call it the blue zones. And if you dive into that, like Sardinia is one of them. Loma Linda, California is the only place in the Northern Hemisphere that does that. But if you dive into those blue zones, there's some interesting things and habits that these people have done. They tend to eat plants. All of them tend to do a lot of natural movement during the day, a lot of physical labor. Multi-generational housing. So the grandparents and the great-grandparents actually have a purpose in the life to take care of the babies, whereas the next generation would take care of somebody else, and then the next generation would be the workers, and then you have the kids. So multi-generational housing, eat a lot of plants, and move a lot on a given day. So these people aren't heavy. They don't have weight issues. They don't eat all plants, although there are some of these that would be considered vegan, but they certainly eat a lot more plants than typical Americans do.
I saw something recently at a meeting I was at that showed, as far as rankings of healthiness in the United States and different countries.
Gosh.
United States was at the bottom.
Right. So, and if you look, I think the United States ranks 11th out of industrialized countries. And if you look at overall health care per dollar cost, we're in the bottom 30 or 38 or something like that. So the amount of money we spend is enormous for the health that we get in return. Then enter the blue zone, where these are arguably very low income countries and people are happier and living longer. So, what do? There's 9 separate issues that the blue zones concentrated on. And one was a plant slant, so they eat more plants. Wine at 5, meaning that they had a happy hour to where they would have some sort of gathering, maybe not around an alcoholic beverage, because people in Loma Linda, California don't drink alcohol, and they still live longer than most. There's also downshift, that they call it, which means that they're just not as stressed. They're certainly not on a cell phone or a computer all day long, and none of these people are sitting behind a desk. They all have a purpose. And then they hang out with the right people, the right tribe. So everybody there is on the same page. Everybody there supports everybody. And, as the old adage goes, it takes a village to raise it. They belong to each other, and they have this sense of purpose and this sense of responsibility to each other. And they put their loved ones first. They take care of their family first before they're taking care of other people. So those are the basic tenets of what the people in the blue zones do.
And that brings me to your practice,
right,
and how you practice medicine, and one of the reasons why you left traditional medicine, because these areas of health, you're already trying to swim against the tide,
right,
if you want to say. And let's talk about how do you do that here?
Well, the first thing we modified the wine at 5 to make sure it was wine at 5 a.m. And it was to start early, so that makes the day go a little bit better. No, so we've distilled it down to 4 pillars of wellness: purpose, diet, exercise, and mindfulness, which encompasses everything that they do in the blue zones. It just leaves it a little bit larger category. And again, our diet, if we had our druthers, we'd have people eat at least an 80-20 plants versus animals diet. Exercise, you got to exercise your mind and your body. Purpose, you have to wake up knowing that you have something to contribute to this world. And that's really what purpose is. It doesn't have to be, preaching to the masses or taking care of sick people. It could be a fly fishing guide, right? It's just understand that what you do, I'm going to do it with love today, and I'm going to try to support the people around me. And then mindfulness. And we've talked about that a lot on this show. As simple as 2 or 3 minutes a couple times a day. Breath work is amazing to be able to get you into parasympathetic expression, where your cortisol levels go down and everything goes down. So those 4 things are what we try to preach to our patients and try to reinforce and enable them to do throughout their day.
Great. Well, I'm excited because in this community, as you know, Tennessee is 48 out of 50.
Yeah. And that would be bad.
Unfortunately,
which
is very bad right? As far as health. And, you have already been doing this for a long time, and then having other people in this state come around this idea of the blue zones and really start making a difference in our community here. And
right.
then, throughout the whole United States, and getting people back to that place of healthiness, true healthiness.
Right. And that was the thing when this started coming up and started being more of a buzzword, as you said. The state of Tennessee is going to try to adopt some of these principles in blue zones, and they actually sought us out because we're already doing it. So we're happy to be a part of that and happy to enable at least the people around us to do it. But we have a blueprint that works. It's worked for 20 years. So
exactly. Well, I'm excited. And thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching this episode of Mindful Medicine. Remember, you are loved.